Let's now turn to our Russia Close-Up series. Our TS correspondents have been seeking out the country's most interesting places. And today we are continuing our look at the Leningrad region, where equestrian sports are undergoing something of a revival. And the first Russian equestrian tournaments took place in St. Petersburg in 1766. By 1959, the Soviet equestrian team were among the world's best, though suffered after the collapse of the USSR. And Alice Hibbert is in St. Petersburg, the capital of Russian horse riding.
Horses have played a hugely important part in St. Petersburg's history as well as in its modern-day architecture. It is, of course, home to the famous bronze horseman statue. It can now also claim to be home to the only equestrian school in the world that trains its horses to the standard of the haute école, but without the use of bits, bridles and spurs, indeed any instrument of constraint. That is the school of Alexander Nevzorov. Previously, he was a famous journalist and documentary maker here in Russia, but it was his love of horses that drove him to set up this highly controversial and innovative training camp. Well, with more on the man and his methods, here's RT's Svetlana Karakina.
When Yelena first saw Gulliver 9 years ago, it was love at first sight. Yelena's been horse riding for years, but has never been interested in competitive equestrian sports. So she got out of the saddle, ditched the bridle, and her relationship with Gulliver took a different turn.
There's nothing special to it. Someone who loves a horse and understands it well won't choose any other way of communicating with it.
Yelena spoils Gulliver with toys, but it's not all horseplay. The training she does was developed by one man, Alexander Nevzorov. Once a leading figure in Russian television journalism, Nevzorov has swapped the media for horses. Together with his wife Lydia, he set up a horse training school and has become a fierce critic of what he calls a horse's worst enemy, equestrian sports.
A horse is not an entertainment tool. It's not something you can use to spend your free time or to practice sports. It's a creature of amazing intellect and abilities that deserves completely different treatment.
And he practices what he preaches. Nevzorov took up the purest form of classical riding, haute école or high school. The moves are not new, but Nevzorov's way of teaching them to his horses is, and is considered unorthodox in the equestrian world. He insists on not using a bridle and ensuring the horse is completely free, challenging long-established ways of riding.
Equipment like this you can find in virtually any riding club. The bridle that has for centuries been used to steer and stop the horse, the spurs or the whip, traditionally seen in equestrian sports. For Nevzorov, they're all instruments of torture, an artificial way to force a horse to obey by causing extreme pain.
But while it's no secret that equestrian sports often push horses to the limit, professional riders deny Nevzorov's accusations of deliberate cruelty, dismissing his work as a circus show.
There is no way of forcing a horse to work. Watch the competitions. A horse works with a spark. If there's no spark, it won't do anything.
Russian equestrian sports had a downturn after the collapse of the USSR, but they are now regaining popularity, and this riding center is part of their revival. The ambition here is to bring Russian riders onto international podiums and to Olympic glory. Like Marina Vorobyova, those who train here are already riding high at competitions home and abroad. What began as Marina's hobby 15 years ago has now become her life.
Your horse becomes your friend, your trusted partner that helps you and supports you in what you do. Nevzorov is doing his thing and we are doing ours.
While for professional riders, sport is the only possible kind of horsemanship, for Nevzorov and his followers it's a road to nowhere. And they believe it's only a matter of time before equestrian sports become a thing of the past.
Well, I'm now joined by keen horsewoman and the author of that report, Svetlana Karakina. Svetlana, good to see you. Now, I know that Nevzorov's school is incredibly secretive and also incredibly difficult to get into.
Absolutely. Nevzorov has about 3,000 followers across the globe, but it's a very tight-knit community. His school is certainly not open to everyone, and getting there is quite a challenge.
Why is that? Surely that goes against his ethos of spreading this method of training that doesn't involve cruelty to horses.
Well, what Nevzorov is doing is simply keeping to tradition. It's always been this way with autocol. I mean, traditional autocol, the way it's existed for centuries, has always been seen as a kind of an exclusive club, certainly not open to all riders and all horses. The moves and exercises that are taught there are considered to be very difficult, very demanding, requiring great skills from both a horse and a rider. And certainly those riders who've mastered those skills have always been guarding their secrets very